Long before most civilizations learned how to travel between stars, there was a rule. It was not written in books. It was not taught in schools. But every advanced species knew it. A warning, passed down from the oldest beings in the universe. The ancient elders. They had seen the rise and fall of countless empires. They had watched galaxies burn and be reborn again. And after everything they had witnessed, they gave only one rule about a single species: humans. Their message was always the same: never challenge them. No one questioned it. Not because they understood it, but because the elders had never been wrong. For thousands of years, the rule was obeyed. Even the most powerful empires stayed away from Earth. They observed from a distance. They avoided contact. Humans were considered unpredictable, strange, dangerous in a way no one could explain. Some believed it was a myth. Others believed it was fear. But no one dared to test it. Until one empire decided the rule was nothing more than a lie. The Xylar Dominion. They were strong. They controlled hundreds of star systems. Their technology was far beyond anything humans had. To them, humans looked weak. They fought each other. They destroyed their own planet. They had no unity. The Xylar Emperor laughed when he heard the warning. "How can such a species be feared?" he said. "We have conquered worlds far greater than this." His advisors hesitated. Some of them remembered the stories. Some of them feared the elders. But pride is a powerful thing. And pride does not listen. So the Emperor made a decision, one that would change everything. He ordered his fleet to move toward Earth. Massive warships entered the system. Weapons powered on. Shadows covered the planet. Still, the elders said nothing. No warning. No intervention. Only silence. And that silence was more terrifying than anything else, because it meant one thing: the rule had already been broken. And now, humanity would respond. The first contact did not begin with words. It began with silence. The Xylar warships surrounded Earth, blocking the stars. From the surface, humans looked up and saw giant shadows covering the sky. Panic spread across cities. Governments tried to stay calm, but fear was already growing. The Xylar expected surrender. They sent a single message: "You are now under Xylar control. Do not resist." For a moment, nothing happened. No reply. No attack. Only silence. The Xylar commanders smiled. "This will be easy," they said. They began scanning the planet. Their reports confirmed what they already believed. Humans are divided. No unified defense. Primitive weapons. To them, it was already over. But they missed something important. Humans were not silent because they were weak. They were silent because they were watching. Across the world, something unusual was happening. Nations that once hated each other started communicating. Scientists who competed began sharing knowledge. Military leaders opened secret channels. For the first time in history, humanity was thinking together. Still, on the surface, everything looked chaotic. People were running. Cities were confused. Leaders seemed unsure. The Xylar saw this and laughed. They are exactly what we expected. But deep below the surface, hidden from alien scanners, humans were preparing. Fast. Very fast. Human scientists studied Xylar signals. Engineers worked without rest. Hackers tried to break into alien systems. Every second mattered. Because humans understood one thing clearly: they could not win by strength. So they would win by something else. Adaptation. Meanwhile, in deep space, far beyond the battlefield, the ancient elders were watching. They did not move. They did not speak. But for the first time in a long time, they were paying very close attention. One of them finally said, "It has begun again." Back near Earth, the Xylar made their next move. They sent smaller ships down toward the planet. A show of power. A warning. But as those ships entered the atmosphere, something unexpected happened. Their systems flickered. Their signals distorted. For a brief moment, they lost control. The Xylar commanders froze. "That is impossible," one of them said. But it was not impossible. It was human. And the war had just begun. The first real attack did not come from the sky. It came from within. As Xylar ships moved deeper into Earth's atmosphere, their systems began to fail again. Navigation screens flickered. Weapons stopped responding. Communication channels filled with strange noise. The Xylar commanders were confused. "This planet does not have this level of technology," one of them said. But they were wrong. Hidden deep underground in secret labs and old military bases, human engineers were working non-stop. They had already learned how Xylar systems communicated, and they found a weakness. Human hackers created signals that looked like Xylar commands. Simple, fast, effective. They didn't destroy the ships. They confused them. One Xylar ship suddenly turned against another. Another lost power and crashed into the ocean. Some simply froze in the sky, unable to move. For the first time, the Xylar felt something unfamiliar. Uncertainty. Back in orbit, the Xylar fleet adjusted their strategy. "Stop underestimating them," a commander warned. The Emperor, however, was not afraid. "Then we will end this quickly," he said. He gave a new order. Full invasion. Massive warships opened fire. Bright beams of energy struck the surface. Entire regions went dark. Cities were damaged. Fear returned. But something had changed. Humans did not panic like before. They moved with purpose. Emergency systems activated across the planet. Civilian networks turned into support systems. Every country began working as one. Even in destruction, humans were organizing. On the ground, small human defense units started fighting back. They didn't match Xylar's strength, but they didn't need to. They used speed. They used surprise. They used ideas the Xylar had never seen before. A group of soldiers used simple tools to disable a landing ship. Engineers turned old satellites into weapons. Pilots flew outdated aircraft, but with unpredictable tactics. The Xylar could not understand it. "These strategies make no sense," one officer said. But that was the problem. Human strategies were not based on logic alone. They were based on creativity. And creativity cannot be predicted. Far away, the ancient elders watched carefully. One of them spoke again. "They are learning faster than expected." Another replied, "They always do." Back above Earth, the Xylar fleet began losing more ships. Not in direct battle, but in small, unexpected ways. Little by little, they were losing control. And for the first time since the invasion began, the Xylar Dominion realized something dangerous. This war was not going to be easy. Days passed. But for the Xylar, it felt like the war was slipping out of their control. They had more ships, more power, better weapons, and yet, they were losing. Not in one big battle, but in hundreds of small ones. Every time they tried to secure a city, humans disappeared. Every time they moved forward, traps were waiting. Every system they used was slowly being understood. The Xylar commanders grew frustrated. "These creatures fight without pattern," one of them said. "They do not follow logic." But humans were not fighting like machines. They were fighting like survivors. On Earth, something powerful had awakened. Humans were no longer divided by borders or politics. They had one goal: survive. And to survive, they were changing faster than ever before. Scientists who once needed years to build new technology were now doing it in days. Engineers created tools using destroyed alien parts. Even ordinary people were helping, sharing ideas, building defenses, spreading information. Every human became part of the war. The Xylar tried to respond. They upgraded their systems. They changed their attack patterns. They increased their force. But it was not enough, because every change they made, humans learned from it, and then improved against it. In orbit, the Xylar fleet launched their strongest weapon yet, a massive energy pulse. Its purpose was simple: shut down all human systems at once. The weapon fired. A wave of energy spread across the planet. For a moment, everything went dark. No signals, no movement, no response. The Xylar commanders relaxed. "It is over," they said. But then, something unexpected happened. Lights came back on, slowly at first, then everywhere. Human systems restarted. Not completely, but enough. The Xylar were shocked. How did they recover so fast? The answer was simple. Humans had prepared for failure. They had backups, and backups of backups, and plans for when everything goes wrong, because humans expected to lose. And that is why they don't. Far beyond the battlefield, the ancient elders spoke again. "This is the moment," one said. "They are crossing the threshold. Back on Earth, humans launched something new. Not just defense, not just survival, but a coordinated counterattack. Multiple strikes at the same time. From land, from air, from space. The Xylar fleet was hit from every direction. For the first time since the invasion began, the hunters were becoming the hunted. The counterattack did not look powerful. It looked chaotic. From the Xylar view, it made no sense. Small human ships moved in strange patterns. Signals appeared and disappeared. Attacks came from directions that should have been impossible. At first, the Xylar thought it was desperation, but it was something else. It was design. Humans had stopped reacting to the war. Now they were controlling it. Deep inside hidden command centers, human leaders and scientists worked together in real time. Every move was shared. Every idea was tested instantly. There was no delay, no waiting, only action. They called it the shift. Instead of fighting like separate forces, humanity was now thinking as one. The Xylar tried to respond with logic. They calculated attack paths. They predicted movements. They adjusted their defenses. But every prediction failed because humans kept changing. A strategy that worked 1 hour was gone the next. A weakness that existed yesterday disappeared today. The Xylar systems could not keep up. Their advantage, precision, was now useless. Above Earth, one of the largest Xylar command ships began to lose control, not from damage but from confusion. Its own systems started giving conflicting orders. Weapons targeted friendly ships. Navigation systems sent it off course. Communication broke into fragments. "Stabilize the system," the commander shouted. But it was too late. Human code had entered deeper than before. Not just hacking. Learning. The system was adapting like a human mind. The ship turned slowly and fired. Not at Earth, but at the Xylar fleet. A massive explosion lit up space. For the first time in their long history, the Xylar felt fear. Real fear. "This is not possible," one officer whispered. But far away, the ancient elders were not surprised. One of them spoke quietly. "This is why we warned them. Humans do not just fight. They become what they need to win." Back near Earth, the battlefield had completely changed. The Xylar were no longer in control. They were reacting, defending, falling back. Human forces pushed forward, not with brute strength but with endless pressure. Every second, something new. Every moment, a new idea. The Xylar Emperor finally stood up from his throne. His voice was no longer calm. "End this war," he ordered. "Use everything." But deep down, he already understood the truth. This was no longer an invasion. This was survival. And humanity was not stopping. It was evolving. The final phase of the war did not begin with an explosion. It began with silence. Across the battlefield, Xylar ships stopped advancing. Their attacks slowed. Their formations broke. For the first time, the Great Dominion was not pushing forward. It was holding on. Human forces surrounded them from every side. Not in one large fleet, but in many small moving units, always shifting, always changing. The Xylar Emperor gave his last command. Release the core weapon. It was their most powerful creation. A weapon designed to erase an entire planet in seconds. If they could not win, they would make sure humans lost everything. The weapon charged. Energy gathered at the center of their largest warship. Space itself seemed to bend around it. Even the stars looked dim. On Earth, humans detected it immediately. They knew what it meant. This was the end, one way or another. But instead of panic, there was focus. A final plan was already in motion. Human ships did not attack the weapon directly. Instead, they targeted something else. The control system. Using everything they had learned during the war, human engineers and hackers launched one last infiltration. It was risky, almost impossible. But humans had one advantage. They had been learning the entire time. The signal entered the Xylar system. At first, nothing happened. Then, small errors appeared. Power fluctuations, timing delays, control lag. The Xylar tried to stabilize it, but it was too late. The system was no longer fully theirs. "Shut it down," the commander shouted. But the weapon would not respond. Because now, it was listening to humans. In one final moment, the direction changed. The core weapon fired, but not at Earth. It turned and struck the Xylar fleet. A massive flash filled space. Ships vanished. Systems collapsed. The Dominion was broken. Silence returned once again. This time, it was over. The remaining Xylar ships powered down. They surrendered. Not because they had no weapons, but because they had no answers. Far beyond the stars, the ancient elders spoke for the last time. "We gave them one rule," one said. and they chose to ignore it. Another replied, "Now they understand." On Earth, humans stood together, not as separate nations, but as one species. They had survived, not because they were the strongest, but because they refused to stop. The final message spread across the galaxy: never challenge humans, because when you do, you don't just fight them, you make them stronger. And that is a battle no one can win.